Everybody. Hey, if we haven't met yet, my name is Scott. I'm the lead pastor of this church, and I'm also the husband of Charity, who's by far the better half here, and then a father of 4 kids. One other detail that's probably relevant for you guys to know as we get into today's topic is that I was homeschooled from 3rd grade all the way through high school. And some of you are like, wow, this is just about to get awkward here. I understand that. Look, there were some actually incredible advantages for me being a homeschool kid. And I know we got some homeschoolers in the house today. Homeschoolers tend to finish a little bit earlier than most kids when it comes to the schooling day. I got to learn how to study on my own without a whole lot of additional help. I was 3rd in my class. I'm a triplet, so... there were no lines at the ski slopes when I was growing up, and we got to schedule vacations on a lot of the off times, and so that was great. But there were some challenges to being a homeschooler. There were some challenges, okay? Not always easy socially when you're meeting a whole bunch of new kids. So I got to play sports through the local public schools, which was phenomenal. I had a lot of different social outlets, but it didn't always start easy because here I'm not the kid like in the hallway or the classroom or the cafeteria, you know, picking up all on the school drama and what's happening there. Like I show up when everyone's about to hit the sports field, and so inevitably every time the season started, they'd be like, "Hey, who's this kid again? Where's he? What's homeschool? What?" So it didn't always start off super strong. And some of you are like, wow, I'm just now fitting all these pieces together. Pastor Scott, you make a whole lot more sense now. Look, when I went off to college, I remember this. When I'd meet some new people and they'd eventually find out I was homeschooled, the consistent question that I got every time was, wait, what? How come you're not socially awkward, right? Any homeschoolers in the house, maybe you've gotten that question before. Let me tell you, I loved being homeschooled, but there were some challenges. And making friends right off the bat with people who didn't always understand me was a little bit of a challenge. But here's what I've come to find out. That making and keeping friends is not just something that I struggled with growing up. Most people in America are struggling with that as well. In fact, one study said that nearly half of Americans say that they feel lonely on a regular basis. In 1990, only about 3% of people said they had no close friends. That number has at least quadrupled over the past couple of decades. In fact, in 2023, the U.S. Surgeon General declared loneliness an epidemic in our culture and said that it's as deadly as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. It increases the risks of heart disease, dementia, depression. It brings on some of the signs of premature death. In the UK, just in case you thought this was an American thing, in the UK, they actually appointed a minister of loneliness in their government to deal with the epidemic of loneliness. And studies will go on to say that when loneliness becomes chronic, it actually gets into a bit of a vicious cycle. It starts working against us when we start experiencing that. It can rewire the brains. It can make us more suspicious about people around us, more self-protective, ironically harder to connect with other people. This is a huge issue that we deal with in our world today. It's rampant. And look, I think in particular, as folks in New Hampshire, we struggle with this. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day who came from the Chicago area, and he said when he came here, he was struck by how self-reliant and independent people are. You walk down the street, you're not supposed to catch eye contact with the person you're walking by, right? That's awkward. We don't do that. You don't say hi to someone as you're walking down the street. Mind your own business. Loneliness is rampant and quite literally is killing us. The question is, what do we do with that today? Whether you're a homeschooler or not, we're all dealing with this issue. And so we want to tackle this today as we continue our series, RelationShift. And here's the amazing news. The Bible gives us an unbelievable set of instructions when it comes to not only finding, but keeping and developing powerful friendships for life. In fact, we're going to talk about the power of a spiritual friendship today. A spiritual friendship, which it's not just people having a friendship based on affiliation and some hobbies, but having a friendship that goes so much deeper, that helps connect us to God and to one another in a way that helps us experience everything that God meant for us to be. That's what we're going to talk about today. And so a lot of today, normally what we do is we open one passage in the Bible, we unpack it. Today what I want to do is actually show you one story and then a whole set of wisdom that we find in the book of Proverbs. Proverbs is a book of wisdom, and it's got a ton of different sayings in it that give us a blueprint for how to develop a wise, ideal life, okay? And so that's what we're going to look at today. And the first thing I want to show you today is in Proverbs 18:24. And in the ESV, this is what it says. To begin, it says, "A man of many companions may come to ruin, but there's a friend who sticks closer than a brother." Why do I begin with that today? Well, number one, the language there of brother is one of family, and they're saying that as powerful as family relationships are, there is a friendship level that we can experience when we follow God that goes a whole lot deeper than that. But not just that, he says, "A man of many companions." Now, in today's world, we love the idea of connections. I've got connections to this person and this person and this person, and I was going to bring up the fact that you can have 1,500 Facebook friends and not have any real depth to the friendships that you have. But my pastor, my other pastor Josh, brought up today, or this past week to me, he's like, "Scott, Facebook's a bit of a dinosaur now." Like, not many people are connected on Facebook as much as they used to. This is like kind of highlighting how old I am at this point. But this is what he pointed out, and I think he's absolutely right about this. We used to treasure our friendships, the 1,500, whatever, how many friends you have on Facebook, but now we don't treasure friendships, we actually treasure followers. We're not looking for friendships, we're looking for followers. Instead of people with us, we want people behind us, which means now you're on an isolated platform all by yourself and people looking at you based on your performance. We are lonely. We're wildly lonely. And yet Scripture tells us that there's a friend who sticks closer than a brother. The word stick there is a word called cleave. And the word for cleave means that you're leaving certain things of your past, and you're actually you're connecting with someone at a deeply bonding level. That's what a friend does. A friend is a powerful connection with other people that goes beyond just a mere networking relationship here. Now, to show you a little bit more about what this actually looks like, there's a story in the Bible of two guys who developed a friendship that is so powerful, and it was powerful for the longevity of their friendship there. It was a friendship between two people called David and Jonathan. And I want to show you a moment in their life that shows how powerful this friendship is, okay? Maybe you've heard of this guy, David, before. If you've ever heard the story of David and Goliath, whether you've been to church or not, maybe you're familiar with that story. It's on Amazon Prime, by the way. You can check it out. I'm going to get some royalties for that. Just kidding. So David and Goliath, like, we see the story of this giant that's taken on by this young kid, and he's got the sling, and he throws the stone, and he kills the giant. It's an incredible moment there. But what happens on the other side between these two guys, David and Jonathan, highlights how powerful a friendship is and even how to find one. Watch what happens next after David slew Goliath in 1 Samuel 18, verse 1 through 4. It said, after David had finished talking to Saul, who was the king at the time, this was right on the other side of the battle, Jonathan, who is the king's son, Jonathan became one in spirit with David, and he loved him as himself. From that day, Saul kept David with him and didn't let him return home to his family. He had to keep this prize fighter, right? But Jonathan then made a covenant with David because he loved him as himself. And Jonathan did something that's going to immediately sound strange to us, but I'm going to articulate how powerful this is in a second. Jonathan then took off his robe that he was wearing, gave it to David, along with his tunic, and even his sword and his bow and his belt. Jonathan saw something in David and said, I want to be aligned with this guy. And not just aligned with him, I want to get close to him. He forms this incredible bond. It says that he made a covenant with David, which was a deep commitment. I'm in. All in with you. Now, some people have tried to manipulate this and make it into some sort of a romantic relationship between the two. Nothing could be further from the case. These guys were friends. And the love that they had for each other was a friendship bond that very few of us have experienced. In fact, the word, when it's translated from the Hebrew into the Greek, it goes into the Greek word agape, which means an unconditional love. Jonathan built an unconditional friendship love with David, and he was so committed that he gave up some things. He gave up the robe that he was wearing, his tunic, his sword, his bow, and his belt. Why is that significant? I don't recommend doing that, by the way. That's like not a next step that you can take as you leave church today. But here's why it's so committed. He left these things because he was the king's son, and every one of these things that he gave up to David were things that were associated with his royalty, with his heir to the throne. He said, essentially what he said is, David, I'm so committed to you, and I love who you are and where you're going, that I'm willing to give up the throne to be close to you. I'm willing to give up my right to royalty and to leading this country one day so that I can follow you, because what God is doing in your life is so important that I want to be a part of that. He left it all. And here's the very first thing I think that we lean into when God gives us wisdom about how to develop spiritual friendship is this. We discover spiritual friendship through a shared sense of purpose, through shared purpose. We discover this. It's not just something we create. True spiritual friendship is discovered. And it's discovered when we find ourselves being a part of something a whole lot bigger than ourselves. See, in this story of David and Goliath, when Jonathan's watching this whole thing, he's watching David with this tremendous amount of courage and boldness to believe that the God who is on their side could help him defeat a giant. And he says, man, there's something special about David. And it wasn't just something that he admired from a distance. Jonathan knew this level of courage. For as popular as the story of David and Goliath is, man, there's a lesser known story about Jonathan and how bold he was, okay? This is amazing, okay? There was a previous battle before the David and Goliath story where Jonathan is the king's son, is going up against an army, and the Israelites are struggling. They're struggling in this battle, and Jonathan has his armor bearer, and they're off on a side of the battle here, and Jonathan looks at his armor bearer and says, man, we can take this battle. And they look at this Philistine outpost up on a hill that has like several dozen guys on it, and he looks at his armor bearer and says, we can take them both, just us, because our God is with us. And oh, by the way, if they call out to us and they start cursing us and telling us to go up there, that's going to be evidence that we need to go up because we're going to kick their butts. And his armor bearer is like, I'm with you, heart and soul, let's do this. And it's exactly what happens. And that level of can do, God's with us, he can do anything, that level of courage, like when Jonathan saw that in David, he was like, that's my brother. We got the same heart. We got the same belief. We're about the same purpose. And because they were about the same thing, they were able to develop a powerful spiritual friendship. This is why it's so important, guys. Because I think for a lot of us that find ourselves in some lonely places in life, we're just like, man, I don't want to be lonely. I just want a friend. I want someone in my life. But the bigger question is, are you about something bigger than yourself? Have you caught a bigger vision, a bigger purpose for your life? And are you sold out for that sense of call and direction and purpose? Because when you're about that, when you've believed in the God who made you and made you on purpose, for a purpose, and you're living that out, you're going to find people who share that, and man, you can form that deep spiritual friendship then that goes way farther than just trying to find a friend. C.S. Lewis put it this way. He said, that's why those people who simply want friends can never make any. Because the very condition of having friends is that we should want something else besides friends. Where the truthful answer to the question, do you see the same truth, would be, I don't see anything, I don't care about the truth, I just want a friend. He says, no friendship can arise from that. There would be nothing for the friendship to be about, and friendship must be about something. Those who have nothing can share nothing, and those who are going nowhere can have no fellow travelers. In other words, if you're just like, I just want a friend, just want a friend, just a friend, wrong question. Are you about something bigger than yourself? Because when you are, you're going to then find some people around you who are going in the same direction after the same thing, and then you can have people who are powerfully with you, spiritual friendships. I remember experiencing this actually back in college because when I first got to college, and I told you guys last week, I was stupid my first 2 years. Like just selfish, did my own thing. I was a bit of a jock, like I was on one of the sports teams, and I was just looking for people who are in the same sports, affiliation as me, and maybe some of the people who are just kind of having fun in life. And I had some connections, but I wouldn't say they were true friendships. And then there was this group on campus that I was like, I wouldn't be caught dead hanging out with these guys. And this is no offense to anybody who may align with this, okay? But there was this one dorm on campus, Drew Hall. Anybody at Drew Hall watching today, I still love you, okay? But these are the guys who would like walk into the middle of the field in the middle of campus with their cardboard shields, cardboard swords, and they start putting on this Dungeons and Dragons battle right in the middle of the field, right? And I'm like, number one, you're getting no dating prospects for a long time. That's just really geeky. And if that's anybody in this room, I mean it. I'm not here to offend you. I'm just like, I'm not going to hang out with you, okay? Look, but here's what happened. Halfway through college, when I was a hot mess, living for myself, I had a friend of mine who called me out and said, hey, I want you to go a whole lot deeper. I want you to pray with me and with a bunch of guys on a Friday morning, and I want you to pray that God would break out and do something incredible on our campus and would particularly work in the hearts of men. And I said yes, and I formed not only some of the deepest friendships that I ever experienced up until that point, but we started seeing a movement of God, being a part of something bigger than ourselves, where guys got out of addiction. They were getting out of all sorts of things, like pornography, womanizing, alcohol addiction, drug abuse, you name it. People were coming to Jesus. And you know who some of the closest guys that I developed on the other side of that were? My D&D buddies. They had their cardboard shields and cardboard swords, but man, they loved Jesus. And we did battle with each other on Friday mornings, and we saw a move of God. Some of these guys showed up at my wedding. I'm telling you, friendships at a surface level are only going to go so far, but when you start connecting over the bigger purposes of what God wants to do in this world, that's where you can find spiritual friendships that will sustain you and help you become everything that God's meant for you to become. I just want you to know we have an incredible opportunity right here, right now. Every single week, we've got men and women who are rolling up their sleeves, and a part of what God's doing at a mission here on a Sunday morning and beyond to help people connect with God. Our whole mission is to help the disconnected find connection with God, with His family and their purpose in life. And we've got people who are serving back in the kids area to not just babysit, but to raise up the next generation of people who would experience God and give their life to Him. We've got people who are welcoming people at the door. Because some people, when they walk into church, man, they've never felt loved in their entire life. They've only felt condemned and sized up. We've got people who are rewriting that story at the front door. We've got people who are setting up and doing production during the week to eliminate distractions. The band who's leading people in worship. I'm telling you, this room is full of spiritual gifts. Full of people that God has called. And not just on a Sunday morning where we get to catalyze people into that kind of faith, but all throughout the week to be able to help people find Jesus Christ. Are you a part of that mission? Because it's not enough to just sit and consume. It's not. We got a resistor back here, okay? It's not enough to just sit and consume. Some of the deepest friendships that you'll ever experience are when you go all in with God. Are you a part of a group? Are you part of a serve team? Are you part of a group? Are you doing life with other people and living on mission to love the people right in front of you? Not just to sit in rows, but to sit in circles where we can impact each other at a whole lot of a deeper level. And I just want you to, before we leave today, I want you to take a look at that connection card because we've got 2 opportunities for you. If you want more information about how to be a part of the mission of God together with our church, to join a serve team, to jump into a group, do not leave today without connecting, without checking off that box. And what we want to do is just get you more information about that, get you connected, okay? Because, man, some of the deepest spiritual friendships you and I could ever have are on the other side of that. All right, so we discover it. We discover spiritual friendships on the other side of a shared mission. But it's not just discovered, we've got to cultivate this too, okay? And that's the second point here, is that we get to cultivate spiritual friendship through 3 things. And the first thing is this: availability. Availability. Proverbs 17:17 says, a friend loves at all times, and a brother is born for a time of adversity. Now we know this brother, again, that's a family language there. When hard times come, that's when family shows up, right? The family that you want to be there and the family that you don't want to be there, right? When the funeral happens, family comes all over the place. Relatives, distant cousins, they all show up because it's a hard moment. It's a tragedy. Families show up for that. But what God's saying is that a spiritual friend shows up just as much, if not more often. They're always there. They love at all times, in the good, the bad, and the ugly. A spiritual friendship is committed to us because they've made themselves available to us in the good, the bad, and the ugly. We have to be available. if we want to develop true spiritual friendships, which means, by the way, it's going to have a claim on our time and our calendars and our commitments. I think for a lot of us, man, we want friends, but we also want to manage our time. We want to be in control of our schedule and our calendar. We want that thing, but I'm not willing to give this up. Jenny Allen wrote about the loneliness that we experience in our world, and she put it this way. She said, we spend our evenings and weekends tucked into our little residencies with our little family or our roommates or alone, staring at our little screens. We make dinner for just us and never want to trouble our neighbors for anything. We fill a small little crevice called home with everything we could possibly need. We keep our doors locked tight, and we feel all safe and sound. But we've completely cut ourselves off from the people outside, our little self-protected world. We may feel comfortable and safe and independent and entertained, but we also feel completely sad. Relationships are the greatest gifts we have on earth, and simultaneously the most difficult part of being alive. Anybody resonate with that? We want the comfort, the safety, the independence, the entertainment. We want to keep all of that and have friends. And what she's saying is those things are mutually exclusive often. That we've got to be available. We've got to make ourselves available for the people around us, which means it's going to have to cut into your calendar. Sherry Turkle wrote a book called Reclaiming Conversation, in which she describes a lot of the tendencies of a younger generation where they just want to keep their options open at all times. There is this FOMO that a lot of us experience, this fear of missing out, where we just want to always perpetually keep all of our options open, and if we just kind of keep it all open, then we can experience some of the highlights of life, the exciting things. But she says when young people do this, what they'll do is they'll show up to a party and then quit that party because they heard about another party that's more exciting. And if we live our life going from exciting party to exciting party and never commit to any one thing, we'll never have those spiritual friendships. What's your commitment look like? Because often spiritual friendships are actually forged in the availability, even in times that are boring. Are you available? Are you available? Now, availability is really important, and we got to love as a spiritual friendship at all times, but some of us can overdo this, all right? And this is going to be wonderful for the introverts in the room, okay? Let me just talk about this. If some of us can overcommit and be kind of over-available too much in people's lives, Proverbs 25:17 says, seldom set foot in your neighbor's house, too much of you, and they're going to hate you. Don't overdo it. Some of you, man, you don't want to be that person that someone's like, oh, shoot, here they come again. Not him. Oh, no, it's him again. Don't be that person. You got to be respectful of people's spaces and their time and their places, right? Don't overdo that. Maybe it's the over-texter. You ever anybody got an over-texter in your life? It's like some people, they text they're narrating their day, Just woke up, just had breakfast. How are you doing? Burnt my toast, shoot. And before lunch, you've got 47 messages from this one person. Don't be that person. Seldom set foot in your neighbor's house. Maybe it's the pop-in friend, right? The friend that treats your house like Starbucks. You're the drive-through. No knock, just shows up. You're in your PJs, and they're just how's it going? I don't know if you have anybody, most of us in New Hampshire, we don't have anybody like that, right? But just in case, don't do that. It's not what a spiritual friendship is, because honestly, some of us, we use people rather than truly care about them. And that's what this proverb is getting at. Be available, but don't use people. Don't use people. Respect people's spaces, okay? So number one, we got to be available, but not too available. Second thing is care. We cultivate spiritual friendship through care, which means that we've got to be emotionally in tune with the people around us and lift them up, support them, and encourage them, okay? This is what happened for David when he was on the run for his life. Saul at one point, instead of treasuring David as this incredible warrior that he had in his house, got really jealous of David because people started saying, hey, I'd rather follow David than I'd rather follow Saul. And so Saul started pursuing him. It's I'm going to take this guy out. And so David's on the run for his life, and this is what Jonathan did. Watch this. 1 Samuel 23, 15 through 16, it says, "One day, near a place called Horesh, David received the news that Saul was on his way to Ziph to search for him and kill him. And this is what Jonathan did. Jonathan went to find David and encouraged him. Encouraged him. Stay strong in the faith. He encouraged him. He was in tune with David's needs. He understood David's plight. He cleared his calendar. And he got personally involved in David's life. Do you know the needs of the people around you? Are you so connected to them and available and in tune with where they're at that when tragedy strikes and hard things come, man, you can clear the calendar and be there for them? You can care. You can care. Now, I know this is stereotypical, but I'm going to speak to the men in the room for just a minute. And believe me, I know some women that you're going to fit this category too, but let me just speak to some of the men in the moment right now. For some of us guys, man, we want to be somewhat close, but emotionally invulnerable to the guys around us. And the greatest tool that we use for that is sarcasm. Am I right? Man, we love sarcasm. Because, man, we can kind of jab each other, which is like, man, I get somewhat close to you, but you know what? I can stay emotionally distant at the same time. I know this, man, because I grew up with sarcasm as a way of life in my home. My dad was from Long Island, and so, like, sarcasm was just how we did things. And I love my dad. He's one of my heroes to this day still, but sometimes sarcasm, for as amazing as it is, and believe me, like, we can have some amazing times with sarcasm. As amazing as it is, it has a dark underbelly to it. Because if you're going through a hard time, sarcasm does you nothing. You don't need biting sarcasm in that moment, which often hurts a whole lot more than it helps. You need someone who's emotionally in tune with what you're going through. Jonathan encouraged David. Watch this. Proverbs 26, 18 through 19 puts sarcasm and poorly timed humor this way. Like a maniac shooting flaming arrows of death is one who deceives their neighbor and says, I was only joking. How vulnerable are you with your friends? And are you willing to be so in tune with them that you don't just use ill-advised sarcasm at times, but you're actually willing to sit in that pain with them? Believe me, my personality hates sadness. I hate it. I'd rather just pull out a joke and get out of there. But over time, man, God's reminded me again and again and again, man, that sometimes one of the best things you could do is just sit in the pain with people. Proverbs 27:14 says, if anyone loudly blesses their neighbor early in the morning, it's going to be taken as a curse. This is proof positive that morning people are officially the worst, right? Okay. Why is it a curse? Because you're vulnerable first thing in the morning. Anyone who wakes up, the last thing you need is someone yelling at you. Any parents in the room understand what I'm talking about? We're dog sitting right now, okay? I won't have to say a whole lot more than that, but sometimes you wake up, man, you just want some peace and quiet. Not happening these days. Look, we can be emotionally out of tune with the people around us. We're not caring for them. I remember a morning, actually, and I've shared this story before with you, where I had to learn early in the leadership, even in this church, that I was being insensitive. There was a morning where I was preparing the message, I was gearing up to preach on a Sunday morning, and the tech team was just struggling. This was like years and years ago. They were struggling. They were trying to fit all the pieces together. The wires weren't working. The connections weren't being had. They were frustrated. For hours, they were working on this problem. And I show up after being saturated in the message for a while, and I'm like, hey, guys, what's going on? And they're like, we're frustrated. Everything's not working. It's just not good. And what did I do in that moment? Instead of just leaning in and be like, man, I'm so sorry, guys. How can I help? I was just like, we don't need this stuff. Like, God's more powerful than that. I'll just preach the word. We don't need any of this stuff. And they were like, whoa, so us giving up all these hours on an early Sunday morning and working so hard for the last couple hours, like none of that matters? And I was like, ooh, that's not what I was trying to communicate. I'm sorry. Are you in tune with the people around you? Do you care about what they're going through? Because spiritual friendships, when they're truly cultivated, are available and they really care. They're in tune they'll clear the calendars, and they'll encourage, and they'll support. They'll be there. They'll be there. But there's a third thing, too. It's not enough just to be encouraging and supportive, man. Spiritual friendships share the truth. They share the truth. They're available, they care, and they speak the truth. They speak the truth. Friends don't just give each other what they want to hear. Spiritual friendships give each other what they need to hear. Because when you care about someone around you and they're going in a direction that's not good for them, a true friend speaks in and tells them, man, you're off course. I love you enough to say this to you and redirect you because that's not a healthy direction. Proverbs 27, 5-6 says, better is open rebuke than hidden love. Wounds from a friend can be trusted, but an enemy multiplies kisses. If you love someone, you're going to speak the truth. Proverbs 28:23 says, whoever rebukes a person will in the end gain favor rather than the one who has a flattering tongue. Our culture right now, when it comes to love, they've defined love as just mere affirmation. I'm just going to affirm you in whatever you want to do in life. You know, who am I to judge you? I just want to encourage you and affirm you, whatever. It's not good to affirm someone who's about to walk into oncoming traffic. Love means we're going to fight for someone's good. Even if it means I've got to redirect you and you're going in the wrong direction. It's willing to speak the truth. How many of you know whether someone's a real friend or not if they tell you your fly's down when it's down? You know what I mean? Like, what's one of the worst feelings when you get home after, like, meeting with people for a while and, like, your fly's down and nobody told you? Like, how long has that been the case? A true friend will tell you if something's hanging out of your nose, if you got something nasty in your teeth. Like, they'll tell you because they care. Because here's the alternative. When we don't speak the truth to people, we're ultimately just protecting self. Well, that's awkward. I'm not going to say anything. Why? Because you're a whole lot more self-focused than you are caring about them. Spiritual friends will speak the truth, even when it hurts, even when it's uncomfortable. You'll speak the truth, even when it hurts. Truth about sexual habits that are running contrary to God's design and flourishing. Truth about harsh tones and condemnation that are coming out of people's mouth that are hurting people rather than doing them good. It's truth about the fact that some of us don't speak lovingly about our spouse in public. What? Yep. Truth about the fact that sometimes your kids are disrespectful. Truth that you are overworking. Sometimes truth that you're underworking and not contributing. Truth that you're isolating yourselves. Like, we've got a lot of things where we've got to speak truth into each other's lives. Because if you're anything like me, man, none of us come in here perfect. We've got to have people that we invite into our life to help us correct course. I want you to know that there's 2 leaders in our church that I meet with on a monthly basis that have intimate access into my life. And I tell them, man, you have full permission to tell me where you think I'm off. Let me give you the good, bad, and ugly about my life, and I want you to correct me. I invite you, please correct me. Because here's the reality. God doesn't want us to stay as we are. He wants us to become better. And that's why Proverbs 27:17 says, as iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. Do you have people in your life who can sharpen you? And not leave you as you are, but help you become better. True spiritual friends will help us not stay as we are, but become everything God's meant for us to be. I love how Gordon MacDonald puts it, and I've said this before, but it bears repeating. He said, there's a certain niceness to a friendship where I can be, as they say, myself. But what I really need are relationships in which I'm going to be encouraged to become better than myself. Myself needs to grow a little each day. I don't want to be the myself I was yesterday. I want to be the myself that's developing every day to become more like Jesus. Do you have those friendships? Who are there for you in the good, bad, and the ugly, who are available, who care, but are speaking truth to help you become everything that God wants you to be. We need it. We need it. Now, I don't know about you guys, but when you look at this list, man, that's a hard list. It's a high bar. Because we're looking for friends like that, but the question is, are we the kind of friends that are attracting these kind of friends to us? Like David, who's about something bigger than himself, who attracted Jonathan into his life, and they're like, we're living in the same direction, we're going in the same place. Are we the friends that we would want people to be friends with? I think the final thing that we have to realize here is that we don't have this power on our own. To be this kind of friends, man, who discovers this, who's about something bigger, who's available, who cares, and who speaks truth into people's lives, like we can't do that on our own. And so the very last thing that we lean into is this. To find true spiritual friendship, man, we've got to find a power to be a spiritual friend by receiving Jesus' friendship. Here's the most powerful thing about God. That when we were a hot mess and walked away from him, God pursued us. Not because we were worth pursuing, but because he simply loved us. And Jesus, right before he died, told us about what the whole meaning of the entire universe is. And it's about a relationship with him. And this is how he put it. In John 15, 13 through 15, he says, "Greater love has no one than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends." And he says, you're my friends. If you do what I command, I don't call you servants anymore, because a servant doesn't know his master's business. Instead, I've called you friends. For everything that I've learned from my Father, I've made known to you. In other words, God is saying to us, I don't want you to just be servants and just do what I want you to do. Like, yes, God's on the throne. Yes, he's in control. And yes, this is not our show, this is his. But at the end of the day, what God is looking for is a spiritual friendship with us. And he came to give us that friendship through Jesus Christ. That when he wrote his son into this world, he didn't come to condemn us, he came to save us. Jesus became our friend when he invited us into a personal relationship with him and into the spiritual friendship that the Holy Trinity's had from the beginning. Father, Son, Holy Spirit, this beautiful friendship that didn't have a beginning, doesn't have an end. Jesus is inviting us into that, to experience that friendship with God. And he did that by becoming perfectly available to us, coming near us. He didn't force friendship on us, but he waited for us to respond. He was available, but not overly available. He was speaking truth to us, gave us not just what we wanted to hear, but what we needed to hear. And he brought care into our life when he ultimately sacrificed his life on the cross, speaking mercy and grace. And he took on our pain through tremendous sacrifice, so that really for one reason, that we be brought back into the family of God. And so my question for us today is this, threefold. Are you a part of something bigger than yourself? Are you cultivating those friendships by being available, caring, and speaking truth? And even more importantly, have you tapped into the relationship that is ours with God because of Jesus Christ? Do you know his friendship and the power that comes with knowing him and being filled with his love? Because if you do, we can give ourselves away. In our marriages, in our families, in our workplaces, in our communities, we can be the kind of friends that our world desperately needs right now. In a world of violence and hate, we can be the friends who are there and give everything because of our God who gave everything for us. Will you pray for me? Pray with me. God, we all need prayer for things like this, because we realize, God, that very few of us are the kind of friends that this world needs. But God, we believe that you have raised us up for a season like this. Lord, we prayed earlier into some of the really harsh, ridiculously hard moments that this world can deal us. And at the end of the day, God, what we need is a tremendous amount of reconciliation that comes, number one, with peace with you. Holy God, I pray that more and more people would take these tragic moments and the pain that this world is dealing with and turn to you and find a spiritual friendship that has the power to reset everything. And God, would we be the kind of people who take the friendship that you've given us and cultivate a church family that would help loneliness to die, and for community to thrive, and for love to increase, and sacrifice to go off the chart. Because we believe there's a tremendous amount of healing on the other side of that, God. Heal us, restore us, care for us, and empower us to be the friends that you've been to us. In Jesus' name, amen.
Will you stand and sing about the